Hello, class. This is Mr. Walker here talking about our final part of our unit. We are talking about algebraic proofs. Now, this is going to be the first time you've probably seen this, so I don't want you to freak out, but it's going to be okay. All right. Now, what is a proof? So, to start off, a proof proofs are, sorry, proofs are the step by step explanation that use definitions, properties, and theorems to draw a conclusion about a geometric statement. There will always be two things that we get with a proof. We are always given something, and we are trying to prove something else. So we are always given some information, and we're always given something that we have to find out, something that we have to prove. Now, we're going to be working with algebraic proofs right now because we're not learning geometry at the moment, but this is an integral part to geometry. So let's talk about what algebraic proofs are. With algebraic proofs, what we have are an equation, and we are going to solve it. Now, in the past, you've gone through, you solved the equation willy-nilly, and you've put what you needed to have on there, and you get an answer. This time, we are going to have to write out how we simplify this and give reasons. Oops, sorry. Ran out of space at the end. Boom. So we have to go through and give how we are simplifying our equation, how we're solving it, what steps we've taken. So let's go through a couple proofs. So a proof looks like this. We are given a little bit of information. So here's our information that we're given. 3x minus 8 equals 19. We are also given something that we need to prove. We are trying to prove that x equals 19. Not 19, 9, my fault. So the last statement of your proof is always what you are trying to prove. The first statement that we have here is always what we are given. And since we are given this information, our reason that we put for this is given. So any given information, you go through and you put that up, and you will see that. Now, when we're doing this, we want to state what's the result after some bit of math that we've done. So let's go through, we'll zoom in a little bit. How would we start to solve this? Now, I know I don't want to deal with our 3 just yet because we only deal with that when we have just 3x on one side and whatever else on the other side of the equation. So first thing we got to deal with is this 8. So I add the 8 to the other side. Our 19 now increases to 27. And it's equal to what we had left on the other side, which is 3x. Now, when we take a step in a proof, we have to justify it with a reason. So what was the reason that took us from our first line here to our second line? To find out that reason, what step did you take? What did you do? We went and we did this little bit of addition here. Because we added, that means that what we did was the addition property. And that is our property of equality. I'll just abbreviate this as POE. All right, cool. So we did the addition property of equality to move this 8 to the other side. Now, we're going from 3x equals 27 on the second line to x equals 9 on the last one. So what changed on here? We no longer have this 3. How did we get rid of the 3? This is the same thing we've done with division in our problems for the last couple of days. This is us dividing. So we had to divide both sides by 3, and that's how we go from 27 down to 9. So since we divided, That is the division property of equality. All we did really was we just justified our math for once. Have you justified your math before? Yeah, but you were explaining it verbally. This time we are writing it out. So it's not necessarily like I'm going through and making you write an essay. Just solve the equation and tell me the steps that you took to solve it. So it's just like when I talk you through any equation in class. So below, we are going to go through 4 proofs. Then I'm going to let you do the 4 proofs that are inside of this on your own. Now, it helps for you to go through and look at what we're looking at before we go through and submit anything, put any reasons, and just figure out what it is that we had to go through to take to these steps. So, here's our 4 proofs. Each of these are given some information to you and then something to prove. All right, folks. So, we got a bit of writing coming ahead to us. So, let's look at our first example. Our first example here has that 8 equals x and 8 equals y. And using that information, we are trying to prove that x equals y. So let's look at the beginning of our proof. Our beginning always has what we are given. In this case, we're given 2 different sets of information. 8 equals x and 8 equals y. Now, after we put these things, we got to figure out how do we prove that x equals y. So let's look at the beginning of our proof. So at the beginning, we got 8 equals x and y because that's given to us. There's no other reason for this. This is just information that we were given to start off the problem with. Now, if both of these equal the same thing, that means that this and this have to be equal. And the reason that we're going to give for that is our transitive property of equality. So these both equal the same exact number. Therefore, these both equal the same thing as well. All right. So whatever you're given, you always put first. In this case, first and second, because we're given 2 things. If you have more than one thing that's given to you, they're usually going to separate it by an and. Okay. And from there, we're able to prove this. Now, this is a little less math for us. Let's get into some more just to get, the feeling of this. Remember, not all of these proofs are going to be super duper algebra oriented. Okay. So let's look at our first one here. Not first, second one. My fault. Our second proof that we have says this time Km equals NP. Now, what we're trying to prove is that Nm equals Km. I messed that up. NP equals Km. Sorry, y'all. So, we're given one bit of information. These 2 things equal each other. You don't know what they are? Doesn't matter what they are. They tell you that they're equal. Now, if that's the case, notice what they did for what we're trying to prove. We started off with Km being over here on the left side of the equal sign. For the proof, it's now on the right side. Then for NP, it was on the right side, but now it's on the left side. Did we change anything about these? Did we change the letters? No. We just changed the order of where these things were. Now, hopefully you remember which property this is with these little bits of hints. So, our first statement is our given information, Km equals NP. And there's only one other line, which would be NM equals K, NP equals KM, Lord, which this is describing the symmetric property. So all we did was we just took our 2 letters on both sides and we just switched them. We didn't switch the order of what these things were. We didn't conduct any math. Whatever was here is now over there. And likewise, this is over here. So no biggie. All right, these first 2 ones were more just to get you used to the structures of this. Now let's get into one where we have some algebra involved. Okay, so I'm gonna go pull up our algebra 1 real quick. so that we can get used to how this will flow. Ooh, I am zooming out. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Oh, sorry about that, y'all. All right. Gotta love the zoom feature. All right. So, number 3, we got a nice simple one here. It gives us an equation of negative 5x equals 75. Then it has x equals negative 15. So, we always start off with our given statement. We are given this. So let's write that up in our first statement here. Now, since this is an equation and there's numbers, we are trying to solve for our missing number here, x. So that's what we're given. Now we have what we're trying to prove, which is x equals negative 15. All right, now that we got this, let's go through and put our reasons. Now at the beginning, we're given negative 5x equals 75. So reason for that is given. Now for x equals negative 15, I have to be aware of what changed. What changed from our first line to our second line? I still see x over here, but the negative 5 is gone, and the 75 has turned to a negative 15. How do we get from 75 to negative 15? We did some division. So this right here is our division property of equality. Division on. I'm trying to make sure that I space this out good enough so I don't overtake the whole thing. Boom, boom, boom. All right, nice and simple. You know that we divide to get this, so no skin off your bones, nothing too deep. Let's go a little bit harder with this next one. Next one we still have 2 statements here. This time you have to look and see what changed. So, just like before, we are given this first statement. This is negative 2 parentheses x, 4x minus 5 equals 32. So let's write that there. All right. So yeah, that's what we got here. We are given this information. So this is our actual reason we're given this. Now let's look at what we're trying to prove. We're trying to prove that negative 8x plus 10 equals 32. Now, this time we're not solving for x. We're just proving that something has changed. So, what has changed? In the original part of this problem, they give us negative 2 outside and 4x and negative 5 inside. We no longer see the parentheses with our proved statement here, with this negative 8x by itself and this 10 over here. Now 32 didn't change, so this is still the same equation. But what changed? We don't see the parentheses, we don't see the negative 2, and our numbers inside have changed to a negative and a positive. The property we just did here is the distributive property. Boom. So sometimes you have some proofs that you have to go through all the way for algebra and solve. Other times you're just going to have to go through and give a step or two. All right. Now, these first 4 were pretty easy. We're going to go through and deal with some that are a little less on the inside. So I'm going to give you our first one, and we'll do it together. And I'm going to leave you the last 3 for you to go through to do. Okay? Now, on the inside, with 5, 6, 7, and 8, we have, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, all these are having you solve all the way to the end. So let's put up our basic bits of information. We know two things for number 5. We are given -2, sorry, this is the wrong color. We are given -2 parentheses y minus 3 equals 64. So that's what we start off with. -2 y minus 3, 64. Now we said know that this is given. This is our first bit of information. Now the thing we're trying to prove is that x equals -29. So we are given that information. We got to keep in mind a couple of things after we write this. We got a lot of information that's popping off here, and we have 2 steps that we're taking. I'm assuming that we're going to have to go through and deal with this 2 that we have to distribute in here. And we're also going to have to deal with this coefficient and this constant somehow. So let's go through and do some stuff. All right. We already know we see a number outside. We got to bring that inside of this parenthesis. So if I bring this -2 inside, what's that operation doing? That's multiplication. So we got -2 times y. That's -2y. -2 times -3, that is +6. And then e equals 64 because nothing happened over here on the other side. Now, what was the property that we did with this? Nice and simple. We've done this before. This is the distributive property. Okay. Now, our next step, we got to get y by itself. So I see that there's a -2. There's a +6 over here. We got to get rid of this 6 first. So getting rid of this 6, we do the opposite of adding, which is subtracting. So we're left with over here -2y, and we're subtracting 6 from 64. This drops this down from 64 to 58, which means that what we just did was the subtraction property. All right, now our final thing, we originally had -2y equals 58. Over here, we have a positive y by itself equals a -29. So the other side of the equal sign is now negative. This side with the y no longer has a -2 on there. So to undo this, remember, we do the opposite, which is division, which means that our proof ends with us doing the division property. Now, some tips for these next 3 that you guys are going to have to do. Remember, what you're trying to prove is always at the end of your proof. So all the lines where you see the word prove, that's all the way at the end. The lines that you're given for these cases, for like 6 and 8, that's all one thing. So all this is given to you. 7, you're given 2 things. You're given, what is it? -2x plus y equals -8, and that y equals -4. This one is a little bit, this one is a little trickier, but I do believe that you might be able to get it, okay? So I'll see you guys later, and good luck.